We got some juicy trade rumors for the Philadelphia Eagles and Maxx Crosby. This is being reported from Sports Illustrated. This Eagles Raiders Maxx Crosby trade would solve Philly's pass rush and save their championship window. If the Philadelphia Eagles haven't already, they should get the Las Vegas Raiders on the phone when it comes to superstar pass rusher Maxx Crosby. Rumors have already been swirling about Crosby standing with the Las Vegas Raiders. If he actually is available, there aren't many players who would be a better fit for the franchise. Crosby is under contract for 4 more seasons and is just 28 years old. If available, he would solve the team's pass rush question mark for 2026 and beyond. The idea of Crosby in Philadelphia isn't just speculation, as well. NFL Network's Mike Ruffalo already has said he believes Eagles would be a top 3 or top 5 team for Crosby if available. Big Time said when asked if the Eagles could be an option for Crosby. Big Time. If this thing opens up and everybody is a player, I mean, listen, they tried to trade for Micah Parsons in the division, right? Why wouldn't they then be considered a strong contender for a team that would be like, yeah, get him out of the conference? I would certainly put the Eagles top 3, top 5, whatever for a Maxx Crosby if and when this thing opens up. And I do believe this thing is going to open up, meaning like trade. It's a weird way to phrase it, but, you know. And then CBS Sports' Tyler Sullivan floated an intriguing mock trade that sounds like a lot, but is worth considering. Number 1 Philadelphia Eagles, Sullivan wrote, Raiders get 2026 first-round pick, number 23 overall, 2027 second-round pick. Eagles get edge Maxx Crosby. How Roseman is never shy about making a splash in the trade market. Oftentimes, he's leading the charge on jaw-dropping off-season moves. In fact, Roseman and the Eagles reportedly checked in with the Cowboys to see if the trade for Parsons, blah blah, we already know that. So yeah, first and second round pick for Maxx Crosby, I guess, is the floated idea. Listen, I'm never going to pretend like I have any strong sense of, oh, I trade a first round, a third round, a fourth round. I find it so hilarious, and I talk about this every offseason. I find it so hilarious that all these guys throw out some of these numbers and be like, I'll pay him 23 million, but not 24 million. And it's like, oh, really? You pay him 23, but not 24? Like, no idea how to make sense of all of that. Everyone just pretends like they do. Everyone pretends like they have a really strong felt sense between the 27th pick in the 4th round and the 20th pick in the 5th round or something, you know, and it's just like, okay, sure, whatever you say. The GMs that get paid a lot of money barely have any idea how to make it work. And yet you and I are going to no, that is where I will 1000% defer to like Howie Roseman. I will defer to Howie Roseman. My only question mark is that this is where things are weird about like the offensive line. The offensive line needs to be worked, the health of it, even if Lane Johnson comes back, like how confident that you are going to feel in him in that regard. And so do you need that draft capital for offensive, you know, for linemen right now? It's just like it is a tricky situation. And it is a tricky situation when you've already won a ring, which they obviously did, and yet you still have this nucleus. You still have Jalen Hurts and, you know, Mulata, Jalen Carter, A.J. Brown, Devontae, and you're just trying to figure out which players are close to leaving their prime. Like an A.J. Brown and Devontae, and Saquon, they don't have 10 years ahead of them, essentially, right? I'm not saying they're leaving their prime today, although you can make the argument that A.J. Brown is already kind of leaving that. And so you are trying to figure out it's like how to extend this. And this is what I had said last season going into the offseason after they won the Super Bowl, that it was never about them repeating or anything like that. It's about continuing to build this team to try to now win another Super Bowl over the next 3 years, whatever that looks like. And you do want to be able to take advantage of Jalen, Saquon, Devontae, AJ. Like that was like the main 4 where in a blink of an eye, you're going to be like, Devontae is looking a little bit slower, and you're like, Jalen Hurts, he is 32 years old, right? Like you just reach that point where you're like, yeah, it's just not quite what it was. But this is where it's a little bit different when you've already won a Super Bowl, because if they didn't, then you kind of really do go all in. and you do take this massive swing, and you're like, fine, I'll get rid of my first round and my second round and my third round and whatever it is. You're like, whatever, because you're trying to win that Super Bowl, right? There's a desperation that say, look at the Detroit Lions should have that. The Philadelphia Eagles don't necessarily need, and like that's where it's tricky. And so I don't know how you stick that landing. I don't know what you do. And that's where now the offensive line is a little tricky, because if you felt, hey, if you're the Eagles and you're like, our O-line is still impenetrable, it's awesome. It's great. Dickerson is healthy and Cam Jurgens is healthy, and hey, I know Lane Johnson's old, but he's still a monster and ready to go. And you got in the past you got Becton, and you're like, oh, this is great. I feel great about it. This is great. Then you can take that swing on Maxx Crosby, because you're not trying to fill much other things. But trying to figure out the offensive line is a big, big obstacle that the Eagles know they need to maximize, right? They know they need that. And so I don't know what options are out there, or what some of the conversations are being had, or a sense of health, retirement, etc. And so to me, that's what kind of leaves the door open for just kind of like, to say, I don't know, honestly, I don't know if this was last year, right? Where obviously the Eagles were now confident going into this past season. I mean, the sense of like, hey, our O-line should still be great. Saquon's healthy, AJ, Devontae, Jay, right? Like, you're feeling good about it. Yeah. Then taking a big swing on a Micah Miles Garrett, Maxx Crosby makes what? That's an easy play. That's an easy play. This year, there's seemingly more problems that need to be solved. And I don't know. I'll tell you this. Maxx Crosby obviously wants to come to Philadelphia. He wants to. He knows it. I think even the Eagle, I'm not going to get too lost in that little social media post, but like, he's praised Philadelphia. Not only just the Philadelphia, the franchise, but the fan base. He said, you dream your whole life of playing essentially for a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, for those fans. He's like, it's remarkable. He praised that. He wants to ball, and he wants to do it in front of just an avalanche of fans. He wants to be part of that experience. And it's something that so many, players who have played for Philadelphia teams in general, whether it's the Phillies, the Eagles, probably not the Sixers, but the Phillies and the Eagles, they're just like, man, it's indescribable. They love it, and Maxx Crosby's that dude, and he wants it. And you probably, as long as everyone stays healthy, you do get like 4 years out of Maxx Crosby's peak. I do think then if you're looking at like a Jalen Hurts timeline, or a Devontae timeline and whatnot, like, you probably are like, yeah, you know what, best case scenario. I mean, seriously, best case scenario, perfect scenario where everyone's healthy coaching. No, like, hey, this offense is great, but our defense is a liability. Best case scenario, you got 4 years, probably around 4 years, where you're kind of starting to be like, all right, I don't know. It's time to start to look to build a new team. I mean, seriously, where a lot of the faces that you've all known to love and feel that they're the foundation of this team, you're like, I don't know. You just, things change. I mean, just look at the two most recent dominant teams that we've had, the Chiefs and the Patriots. There's a lot of, turnover there. There's a lot of turnover there. And even if we now look at some of these other quarterbacks that didn't play for 55 years, like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre. I don't want to go too far back. Brett Favre is honestly further than I would have even liked to in the first place. But like, you just don't see this team the way how the Eagles have been constructed essentially since 22. I'll say, you don't see them just all stay together for the next 10 years. Like, it just doesn't happen. It's just not the way this thing works. And so if you are saying like, hey, let's do it right now. Let's see what we got. Let's see even though we already won the Super Bowl, our mentality is still to kind of go boom or bust right now, because we think in the next 3 or 4 years anyway, we're going to have to probably really retool this thing pretty strongly. So then maybe you do that. I wouldn't be surprised. I wanted to say this earlier, and I'll end this clip here, because I was thinking about Maxx Crosby and defenses and whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that pendulum swing. I've been kind of talking about this a little bit about the pendulum swinging between offense and defense and the importance of the run game and how things are constantly changing in the NFL, but there was definitely that undervalue of or devaluing defense. And I wouldn't be surprised if a team like the Philadelphia Eagles really does go all in on defense in that regard. And I mean, listen, this is true for every single team, but it just feels truer than ever right now that it's just like if you have an awesome defense, just a suffocating shutdown defense and a good O-line and you can run the ball, it's like I don't know if you need, I'm seriously, it's like I don't know if you need anything else. You're essentially just asking your team to get like a touchdown a game, maybe two, and kick a few field goals and you win. You dominate time of possession. Your defense takes the head off of the other team, you know, of the quarterback and whatnot. And like, yeah, and if you still have a quarterback that can still obviously make big plays and make big throws like Jalen has obviously proven and Devontae and AJ, etc., it's just like I wouldn't be surprised. But that's where now Howie Roseman is fascinating because maybe he goes out and gets, maybe you essentially flip AJ Brown for Maxx Crosby. Now, I don't mean like a trade 1-to-1 where they're like, oh, hey, we're giving you AJ and you give us Max. But like the draft capital that you give up for Maxx Crosby, you get back for AJ, and now you still can draft an offensive lineman and a receiver. And now you got Maxx Crosby on defense. You have a new wide receiver and you have an offensive line. Again, like all of this, it's just I don't know how GMs honestly make decisions, honestly. Like it's tough, man. I mean, it's not easy. Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, that actually kind of sounds kind of interesting, thought-provoking, but that might be a terrible idea because it's like, no, we don't got time to deal with the rookie wide receiver. I I I think so much of it depends on the timeline. The timeline and who's available and how confident you are in your evaluation of said players, you know, that you could draft or pick up in the offseason. Let's not pretend that my Becton was this massive. Like people are like, oh, the Eagles got my Becton and now their offensive line is going to be dominant. Nobody was saying that. Nobody was saying that whatsoever. Nobody was saying, oh yeah, man, Darius Slay and Bond are going to transform. Oh, they went back and got CJ Garner-Johnson. Now this defense is legit. Nobody was saying that. Even Saquon Barkley, they were like, I don't know, they overpaid for a running back. Like, so a lot of the moves are not always clear. So the Eagles are still very much a wait and see. If you remember last offseason, everybody was like, Myles Garrett, Myles Garrett, Myles Garrett, Myles Garrett. And it's like, yeah, that would have been fascinating to see. Hey, is that the difference between winning a Super Bowl and not? You know, you definitely would still feel uncomfortable with the offense because none of the offense would have changed, but your defense would have been better. And although it's hard to see what you would have had to given up, I forget if that was before the draft. So it was like, would they have not been able to then draft some of the players who they drafted this year? Like, you know, it kind of has that domino effect. So it's kind of hard to really know how everything would have necessarily unfolded. But Maxx Crosby is definitely an intriguing aspect to bring to this team. Jalen Carter, right? Crosby and Company Davidson. I think you're in a fascinating spot. Jordan Mill, Cooper Dean, Mitchell Bond, like you built a pretty rocking defense, man. And then you get to play the offense how you want, where you want to run the ball and take care of the ball and not turn the ball over. And maybe that's where like AJ Brown is still unhappy and it's like, you know, listen, if you build that truly impenetrable defense and you fix your O-line and you can get back to wanting to run the ball and whatnot and be kind of like a little bit more of a conservative offense, but still ready for the big plays when necessary. And if AJ isn't in on board with that, it's like, okay, then you can flip him, get some draft capital, and then continue to fix the offense. So, I don't know. There's options. They're interesting, and there's a lot at stake because you're the intention is to try to win another Super Bowl. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the potential for Maxx Crosby to apparently save the Philadelphia Eagles according to the article? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get to some discussions, let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.